YouTube. I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Moicano versus the Zombie. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Andrew Enwell versus Anderson Dos Santos. And to me, these guys both like to strike. I think Andrew is a little bit better of a wrestler, but I think overall grappling-wise, I think Dos Santos is the better guy. I think Andrew's going to want to keep it on the feet, and Dos Santos is going to want to get to the ground. My biggest thing is Andrew has not shown the greatest takedown defense overall. I feel like his conditioning's good, and he's good at kind of making the fight. You know, he can fight in any round, just like he did in the first. I think Dos Santos slows down a little bit as the fight goes on, but he's still really good. Not a ton. It's kind of like who can win in the positions. Cause I think these guys are pretty close. I think Andre is a little bit better of a striker. It's really close. Like I said, I think it's just kind of who can either land the takedowns or stuff the takedowns when they need it. And I think I'm going to lean slightly towards Anderson. I think he's going to land the takedowns when he needs them and edge out a 29-20 decision. It's possible that Andre could knock him out really early. He does have really heavy hands. But I'm leaning towards Anderson. I think he's going to get the takedowns he needs to just edge out 2 of the 3 rounds and get a decision. Next, we got Darian Ware versus Eric Spicely. And Eric Spicely's taking this fight on short notice, but I wouldn't count him out. He's won like 2 or 3 in a row since he left the UFC. I feel like he's such a high level of jiu-jitsu that if he can get most guys to the ground, he has a real solid chance at winning. But that being said, I think Darian Ware is just such a good wrestler. I don't really see it happening. I also think boxing-wise, Darian Ware's got a big advantage. He's not like a super great striker, but I feel like his wrestling is just so strong that he can kind of dictate what's going to happen. That's what makes his striking even better. It's tough because, like I said, I feel like Eric Spicely, if he can like jump on Darian Ware in any way, shape, or form and like drag this to the ground somehow, I do think he can pull off the upset win. It'd be a big upset because Darian Ware is like 6 or 7-0. It's tough. Like I said, I'm leaning towards Darian Ware. I just think he's too good. But like I said, don't count Eric Spicely out of this fight. He's beaten guys that he should have lost to just because he's able to pull them to the ground and catch guys in submissions. He's really good when he can get on top of people. But I just don't see it happening. I think Darian Ware keeps on the feet and just outboxes him and maybe gets a late TKO. Next, we got Ariana Lipsby versus Molly McCann. And this is pretty simple. They're both strikers. They're not the greatest wrestlers, but I don't see this fight hitting the ground. I don't think either one of them can hold each other down or get each other to the ground. And I think Ariana Lipsby is just a much better striker. I think that she throws better volumes and hits harder. So I'm leaning towards Ariana Lipsby. I think she wins by decision. Next is Alan Crowder versus Jerizo. Can't say this guy's last name. Jerizo's shown he's a great striker and his ground game is decent and it's definitely getting better. He's definitely got a lot of athleticism, and I think that's what's going to help him in this fight. I think Alan Crowder is definitely better overall. I think he's better on the ground, but I think Jerizo's just too good of a striker. I think that the striking is massively in his favor. And I think that if he can kind of stuff those early, like first 2 takedown attempts, he's probably going to eventually knock Alan Crowder out in the first round. That's just what I see happening. I think Alan Crowder is not going to be able to get those takedowns, and Jerizo is eventually going to line him up for like a straight punch down the middle and win by knockout. So I got Jerizo winning by a late first round knockout. Next, we got Matt Weidman versus Luis Pena, and this depends 100% on how Matt Weidman looks after 5 years. I think it's been maybe 4. I think the last time we fought was 2015, maybe 2016. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a long time. I know he won his last fight. I think he beat Isaac Valley Flag in his last fight. But yeah, he's been kind of semi-retired for a while. And if he looks as good as he did when he was kind of in his prime, because I think he left on like a 4-1 record, you know, he could definitely win this fight. I think he's got one of the most underrated games in the lightweight division back at the time. He had wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and boxing. You know, I think the division's evolved at this point. I think everyone's kind of at a level where they can kind of do all 3 of those things, or at least good enough to get it where they want it. Luis Pena, you know, he's definitely younger, and he's good everywhere, striking and grappling-wise, but I do think Matt Weidman's going to have the wrestling advantage, and that's something that could edge him out the rounds, especially since Luis Pena is so young in his career. He might be willing to accept being on bottom because his jiu-jitsu is so good, and that could hurt him. Like I said, it's so hard to tell because I don't know what Matt Weidman's going to look like coming back after so long. I'm just leaning towards Weidman just because I feel like his wrestling's so good that it's going to help him in those close situations, and I think he's going to edge out the rounds. I mean, he's only been finished like once or twice by strikes. He's got a really good chin, so I'm leaning towards Weidman. I think he just uses his wrestling to get the wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if he loses because, I mean, 5 years away, you could be completely done and not know it, come back and get starched, but if he looks like how he did before, I think he's going to win. Next, we got Dan Ige versus Kevin Aguilar, and I like Dan Ige. He's from Hawaii. I want him to win, but realistically, I think striking-wise, Kevin Aguilar is at least 1 or 2 levels higher than him, and I think his takedown defense is too good for Dan. I think if Dan could get him down get on top of him, he absolutely does have a solid chance of submitting him. But realistically, I think Kevin Aguilar's takedown defense and ability to get back up is too good. I don't think Dan will be able to take him down, and even if he does, I don't know if he'll be able to hold him down. I think, like I said, I think Kevin will be able to keep it on the feet and just outstrike him for 3 rounds. So I got Kevin Aguilar winning by decision. Next, we got Ashley Yoder versus Siri Kondo, and these two chicks are just mediocre. I don't know why they're on the main card. I think they're both just kind of decent everywhere. Neither one of them's that great. I'm leaning towards Siri. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way. Like I said, this is probably the weakest fight on the whole card, and I don't know why it's on the main card. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Siri. I think this is going to be kind of a boring, slow grappling fight. Next, we got Kevin Holland versus Alessio Sakara, and Kevin Holland kind of really surprised me in his last fight. I thought he lost. I felt like he kind of let Gerald Muskrat pick and choose where the fight was the whole fight. I thought he had a huge advantage in the striking, and he essentially just grappled with Jared the whole fight, and I felt like Jared kind of edged him. Kevin won, but it was a split decision, and, I think that's something he needs to address moving forward. You can't just let other people dictate the pace of the fight. I do think he's way better than Alessio DiCerco, and he's probably going to win by knockout, because I think Alessio's just going to strike with him, and Kevin's the much better striker. But you never know. I mean, Alessio DiCerco could do what Gerald did and try to grapple with Kevin as much as possible. Kevin's a good grappler, but I feel like Alessio, on the ground, these guys are about even. It's just Kevin's got a huge advantage in the striking. It's just like his last fight, and if he allows Alessio to dictate the pace of the fight, he could end up losing a decision. I don't think that's going to happen. Hopefully he correct kind of the mistakes he made in his last fight, and I think if he does, he'll win by first-round knockout, and that's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to go with Kevin. I say he wins by first-round KO. Next, we got Adriana Lee versus Montana De La Rose, and Montana looked really amazing in her last fight. I felt like her grappling has gotten significantly better. Her striking too, but especially her grappling. I think Adriana Lee has always been kind of good everywhere. I'm really excited to see this fight because I don't know how good either of these chicks actually are. Like, when you see these chicks who come up and beat the lower level people, it's like, yeah, but let's see you fight the top 10 people. I feel like there's a huge gap between, like, the top 10 women. It's not like the men's MMA where it's like they're kind of close-ish. The women, there's huge gaps between, like, the 10 and the 20s and shit like that. Like, you'll see one chick dominate somebody like it's nothing, and then vice versa, the next fight, they'll fight a top 10 chick and get dominated like it's nothing. So we're going to see how good both these chicks really are. I think they have the same style. I think Adriana Lee just throws more kicks. It's tough, but I'm leaning slightly towards Adriana Lee. I just think she has more weapons to attack with on the feet, and I think on the ground they're about even. Like I said, though, you never know. One of these chicks could be significantly better somewhere. Until you see them fight a top 10 person, you don't really know. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Adriana Lee. I just think she has more weapons to attack with, and it'll edge her out the rounds. Next, we got Brian Barberena versus Randy Brown, and I just feel like Brian Barberena is better everywhere. I think his striking volume and his grappling especially are way better than Randy's. I think Randy's good at kind of keeping the distance and throwing long strikes, but I think Brian Barberena is just going to walk him down. I think his conditioning's better, and I think that, he's just going to eventually beat him up with body shots and win by TKO like in the second or third round. So I got Brian Barberena by second or third round TKO. Next, we got John Lineker versus Rob Font, and to me, I don't think either of these guys have changed that much since they fought before. It was only like a year ago, maybe a year and a half. To me, I don't think anything different is going to happen. I think John Lineker is going to walk him down, catch him with shots, and eventually get on top of him and just finish him. I think Rob Font's not going to be able to take him down. I don't think he's going to be able to stay away from him. And I think John Lineker is just going to eventually light him up with shots and either finish him with strikes or catch him in a guillotine like he did the first time. So that's what I got to see happening. I think this fight's going to be exactly the same thing as the first time, with John Lineker winning by second round TKO or submission. Finally, we got Renato Moicano versus Chan Sung Jung, and to me, this fight is all about the range. I think that who can throw the better punches from the outside is going to win. I think this is exactly like Chan Sung Jung's last fight. I think he's fighting a good, long striker, but I think he's the better striker overall. I thought it's obvious he won his last fight, other than the elbow. I'm not delusional. I know he lost. He got knocked out, but the decision-wise, there was like 5 seconds left on the clock. Less, he wouldn't have been hit with the elbow, and he wouldn't have won the decision. He won that fight at least 3 rounds to 2, maybe 4-1. I think Moicano's a better striker than what's his face was, but I think Chan Sung Jung was clearly a lot better than him. So the striking between these guys is going to be close. You know what I mean? More even. I think grappling wise, they're pretty close. Moicano is probably a little bit better if he's on top, but I think that if Jung's on top of him, he's going to be significantly better. It's close. It's a really close fight. Like I said, I think it's just who can kind of control the pace from the outside is going to win this fight. But I'm leaning towards Jung. I just think he has more heavier hands, and I think if he clips Moicano, like how Aldo did, he's going to finish him. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll be back and forth for as long as it lasts, but I think Jung eventually catches him and wins by knockout. I think it's going to be like the 3rd or 4th round. But I do expect it to be fight of the night. I think it's going to be a great fight, but that's what I see happening. I got Jung winning by finish. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.